どうもエルズと申します。 F1 公式ポッドキャストにて今週末に控えたベルギーグランプリ特集が組まれていました。そこでも一番最初の話題はやはりチーム代表が変更となったレッドブルでした。角田選手がサムエイ中央に据えられたこの放送の内容を日本語訳と合わせてご紹介いたします。それではどうぞ。
And let's get straight into it, JP. It's the dawning of a new era for Red Bull Racing this weekend as new team principal and CEO Laurent Mekies takes his seat on the pit wall for the first time since replacing Christian Horner after Silverstone. The spotlight's going to be on him, on the team, on Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda after a very challenging first half of the season. JP, what will Laurent be hoping to achieve in this first weekend in charge?
I imagine he's obviously going to be set for the lion's den of the media scrum in Belgium, and it's going to be a really intense first weekend for him. You know, going into a championship-winning team, now he's at the helm. From his experience of racing bulls, which is so different in terms of how the team operates and what they expect. But I still think Red Bull have the ingredients for a really strong weekend. I still think they've got a great race team that they know how to execute races. They've got a driver that can massively perform even when his back's against the wall in Max Verstappen. And he's always good at Spa as well. And the team are good at Spa. So I think if you're Laurent heading into his first weekend, I think you're going to absorb life at the top line F1 team. It's going to be very different for him, just personally, with the media pressures and the scrutinies, the questions. But then get the cars on track. It's a sprint weekend, so there'll be talking points on track immediately. And you're just hoping that Red Bull can find the ground running and Max can do a good job.
He's a very different personality to Christian Horner, so I'm going to be fascinated to see how the team reacts to him. I think he's more gentle than Christian Horner. You know, Horner's only line of defence was always attack, wasn't it? Whereas I think he's a little bit more guarded. Laurent's a little bit more guarded. I mean, how do teams react to a change at the top? Do you think he'll have the backing of the team? Do you think Max will be motivated to deliver a top performance for Laurent?
You know what? I think they will all be really gearing up behind him at the moment, because this is after the fallout of everything in the last year and a half and the key personnel that have left Red Bull. And there's a lot of people within the team that are looking around and thinking, who's going to go next? You know, the whole team was very unsettled. And this is the chance now for the rest of the team, who are still very good at what they do, to re-galvanise, put their support behind Laurent. And as I said, I don't think, 1 week to the next week, the team principal role is going to change a huge amount. They are not hands-on on the pit wall. They're not driving the car. They're not implementing strategies. So really, it's up to the race team to still put together the best weekend they can. And it's all about just then the communication channels with Laurent, making sure that he's fed back and he's in the loop as quickly as possible. He understands where the team are at, what needs to change. And I wonder, with the different personalities between Christian and Laurent, if there's going to be a bit of a culture change at Red Bull because of exactly what you said, actually, the attacking nature of Christian Horner. You know, he was always bullish, always wanting to hit back if he was ever on the back foot. Do you remember all those bits of paper that we saw whenever there was a steward's decision that went against him or Verstappen? So I wonder if that will change and it will be a bit more of a pragmatic race team maybe, and not necessarily all guns blazing attack in favour of Max. But we will see, because we really don't know what Laurent Mekies is going to be like in this situation.
Well, and Laurent is an engineer by trade. He studied at the same engineering university in Paris as Fred Vasseur, the boss of Ferrari. Do you think that'll help somehow? I mean, might it? Everyone's talking about the second Red Bull, right? We've had Liam Lawson have a couple of races. Yuki Tsunoda's fared no better since he's been in the car, since Suzuka. Do you think Laurent, because he's worked with Yuki, can have an immediate impact on that side of the garage?
I think that's probably the best use of him in the immediacy, is to work out where, because if you've got two cars that are the same, you have to understand why one driver is so good and the other one isn't. And even Red Bull as a team are scratching their heads thinking, how can no one get near Max? So when you've got now a team principal that, hasn't worked with Max in this capacity. As Christian had sort of developed Max into the champion that he is, always coming through with Red Bull, and they won their titles together. Laurent has actually come from working with Yuki Tsunoda and with Liam Lawson in the past, and that was his first foray into being a team principal. So he's kind of the underdog mentality. So I think he's going to be definitely arm round Yuki and thinking, come on, you were great when you drove with me. You were qualifying up in the front 3 rows. What is going on here? And trying to understand the second driver role a bit more, which I think will be helpful. Whether or not he'll be able to actually find the performance there is obviously the bigger head scratcher for the team.
Tell us a little bit about Spa, Jolien, because, I'm looking back at last year and Perez qualified 3rd, right? So he was suffering the same fate as Yuki Tsunoda is suffering now and couldn't hold a flame to Max Verstappen. Yet at Spa, that car was working for both drivers last year. Do you think Yuki can take some confidence from that?
But also at Spa, do you remember last year it was the wet qualifying and Max was clear of the field and then had his grid penalty that dropped him down. And then when it dried up, Checo then slipped back through the field. So Spa is about a perfect track for Max as you get, I think. The classic nature of it, the fast corners, the sweeping, flowing nature. Still, I would expect Red Bull to be good. And I think Max can be right in contention for a victory in Spa. Would Yuki take confidence from that? I just don't know how he would find confidence from anything at the moment because of how performance is going. So it's just a reset. And maybe if you're Yuki, the confidence is having a boss that you know and like, who is just going to be a lot more in your camp than I would say Christian was and the old guard of Red Bull. So having someone that's there to understand what's going on with that second car. And then, hopefully the car performance is good because we've seen if Max is on the front row, then the second driver can be in the top 10. If Max is 6th, the second driver is struggling to get out of Q1. So it's all relative there.
Well, can you imagine if Max Verstappen won the Belgian Grand Prix, Mekies's first race in charge? I mean, you couldn't make it up, but you definitely are giving me the impression that it is possible.
I think it could be. But also remember, Max won his first Grand Prix at Red Bull. So it would be the full lineage coming back in for Laurent now getting his first win. And I don't think it's necessarily would be like an indictment of where the team are at. I don't think they'd suddenly be fixed. But I do think they have a good race team. And I think they will have a good car at Spa. And I think with Max driving it, I'm not saying that they'll be favourites, but I would be surprised if they're out of contention. And they've got a decent shot. The one thing that might throw a spanner in the works is the fact it's a sprint weekend, and Red Bull often would take a little bit more time to get the car into a good window.
いかがだったでしょうか。角田選手だけではなく、レッドブル全体に注目が集まるレースとなりそうですが、気温が低く、特性的に合いそうなスパでの角田選手の逆襲に期待したいですね。スプリントがあるのは心配ですが、なんとかうまく流れに乗ってほしいです。レッドブルが注目なのは間違いないですが、フェラーリもこの2週間の間にフィルミングデーを利用し、新型リアサスペンションを試したと報道されています。各チーム、情報がないだけでアップデートを導入してくる可能性もありますし、何よりベルギーは天候が不安定なので、どうなるか予測不能です。今週末のレースが待ち遠しいですね。また今後も F1 に関しての情報をまとめた動画を制作していく予定です。継続するためにも、ぜひいいねやチャンネル登録をお願いいたします。ポッドキャストの内容について、また動画の感想などコメントいただけると嬉しいです。それでは。